Volcanoes are among nature's most awe-inspiring phenomena. From the majestic Mount Fuji to the mighty Mount Kilimanjaro, these colossal landforms have captured the imaginations of humans for centuries. But while many volcanoes are dormant, there are others that pose a constant threat to life on Earth. And it's not just the areas surrounding these volcanoes that are at risk. A recent study has revealed that a supervolcanic eruption could have devastating global consequences. Join us as we explore the potential impact of a massive volcanic eruption and what it would mean for humanity. What is a supervolcano? Before we delve into the potential impact of a supervolcanic eruption, it's important to understand what constitutes a supervolcano. Unlike regular volcanoes, which are typically a few hundred meters wide and erupt fairly frequently, supervolcanoes are much larger and rarer. They can be up to 100 kilometers wide and erupt only a few times per million years. The reason why supervolcanoes are so much larger than regular volcanoes is because they have magma chambers that are significantly bigger. These chambers can store magma for hundreds of thousands of years before it erupts. Some examples of supervolcanoes include Yellowstone National Park in the United States, Lake Toba in Indonesia, and Manoon in Japan. Yellowstone National Park is perhaps the most well-known supervolcano, and it's also one of the most active. The park is home to a large caldera, which is a large basin that forms after a volcano erupts. The Yellowstone Caldera is more than 40 by 70 kilometers wide, and it's the site of some of the most powerful volcanic eruptions in history. The most recent eruption occurred about 640,000 years ago, and it was one of the largest events of its kind ever recorded. It unleashed an estimated 2,500 cubic kilometers of ash and pumice, and it left behind a layer of ash that was more than 1 meter thick over an area of nearly 1.6 million square kilometers. While the Yellowstone supervolcano hasn't erupted in quite some time, it does remain active today, and scientists continue to monitor it closely. In 1985, the United States Geological Survey began a yearly seismic monitoring program at Yellowstone. Each year, scientists record about 1,000 earthquakes, but typically these earthquakes are small and don't signal an imminent eruption. In 2021, however, Yellowstone experienced a swarm of earthquakes that raised concerns about the volcano's stability. Over the course of a few months, more than 2,500 earthquakes were recorded in the region, and it was the largest earthquake swarm at Yellowstone since monitoring began. While the earthquake swarm didn't lead to an eruption, it did serve as a reminder of the potential dangers of Yellowstone and other supervolcanoes. The impact of a supervolcanic eruption. So how would the world fare if a supervolcano were to erupt today? To answer this question, researchers from the University of Bristol and the British Geological Survey conducted a series of experiments using computer models. The goal was to determine how far the ash cloud from a supervolcanic eruption would travel around the world and how quickly it would affect different regions. The results were surprising and alarming at the same time. The team discovered that the ash cloud from a supervolcanic eruption would cover vast areas of North America, Europe, and Africa within just 2 weeks, and it wouldn't stop there. The ash cloud would continue to spread and eventually cover the entire globe within a few months. The team also found that the ash cloud would have a significant impact on global temperatures, blocking out the sun and causing a rapid cooling effect. This could lead to a global ice age and potentially wipe out most life on Earth. The effects of such an eruption would go beyond just the environment. It would also have major implications for human society. Transportation systems would be shut down due to the ash cloud, leading to chaos and panic. Food supplies would dwindle as crops failed and livestock died. And healthcare systems would be overwhelmed as people suffered from ash-related illnesses. In short, a supervolcanic eruption would be a global catastrophe that would change the course of human history. Could we predict a super eruption? While the thought of a massive volcanic eruption may seem like something out of a disaster movie, it's a very real possibility that we should be prepared for. In fact, scientists believe that it's just a matter of time before one occurs. But there is hope. There are ways that we can predict when a super eruption will happen. One way is by looking at the frequency of earthquakes in the area. Earthquakes are often the first sign of activity in a supervolcano, and they can tell us when it's time to start paying attention. Another way to predict a supereruption is by monitoring the amount of gas that's released from the volcano. When a supervolcano is getting ready to erupt, it releases more gas than normal, and this gas can be detected using special equipment. Finally, we can also look at the shape of the volcano itself. As a supervolcano gets ready to erupt, it changes shape and becomes wider at the top. This is because the pressure from the magma is pushing against the sides of the volcano, and it can be detected using satellites. These methods are not foolproof, and we still may not have enough warning to evacuate the area, but they do give us a fighting chance. We need to continue to study volcanoes and learn more about them so that we can better predict their behavior. This is the only way to keep ourselves safe from these incredible natural disasters. What could we do to survive? If we had any warning of an impending supereruption, our best chance of survival would be to build shelters deep underground, or perhaps even underwater. These shelters would need to be stocked with food and supplies to last for months or even years. We would also need to have a way to generate power without using fossil fuels, since the ash cloud would likely contaminate all of the water and air. In addition to building shelters, we would also need to develop new technologies to help us survive. For example, we would need to find a way to filter the ash out of the air and water, and we would also need to develop new agricultural techniques to grow food in the ash-covered soil. It would be a long and difficult road to recovery, but it's possible that humanity would eventually prevail. However, the chances of survival for individual countries would depend on many factors, including the location of the eruption and the size of the ash cloud. Countries closer to the eruption would obviously suffer the most, but even countries further away would not be immune from the effects. In fact, the entire planet would be affected, and we would all need to work together to rebuild. Supervolcanoes are truly awe-inspiring natural wonders, but they also pose a very real threat to life on Earth. The potential impact of a supervolcanic eruption is devastating and could have catastrophic consequences for humanity. However, we can take steps to better understand these volcanoes and develop plans to protect ourselves from their destructive power. By working together, we can ensure that we are better prepared for whatever nature may throw our way. But what do you think? How would you survive a supervolcanic eruption? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.